Imagine this for a second. You wake up in the morning, go to brush your teeth, and instead of clear water flowing from the tap, it's bright red. You pour yourself a glass, and it looks like a cup filled with blood. You look outside, and the ocean isn't blue anymore. It's a deep crimson red. Rivers are no longer peaceful streams, but scarlet lines cutting through the earth. Lakes look like giant bowls of liquid rubies. What if water, the most essential thing on Earth, was red instead of clear? How would that change our world? Let's dive into this strange thought experiment. At first, the world would be in shock. Imagine the panic. For centuries, humans have associated the color red with danger, blood, fire, warning signs. If water suddenly turned red, people would immediately think something catastrophic had happened. Nobody would want to drink it, even if scientists proved it was safe. Social media would explode with pictures and videos of blood-red oceans. News channels would run non-stop headlines like "The oceans are bleeding" or "Global water crisis, is the world ending?" Governments and researchers would be under pressure to explain what was going on. But beyond the panic, think about how the world would look. Niagara Falls, usually a curtain of sparkling white water, would look like a giant waterfall of blood. Beaches would lose their charm. Instead of peaceful blue waves, you'd see terrifying red tides crashing against the sand. Swimming pools would look like scenes from a crime movie, and no one would want to jump in. Even the rain would be unsettling. Imagine red droplets falling from the sky, splashing onto your clothes and skin. Snow would no longer be pure white, but a faint pinkish color, because snow is just frozen water. Entire landscapes would shift from calming and refreshing to eerie and unsettling. The psychological impact would be huge. Our brains are wired to associate red with danger, aggression, and warning signals. Seeing red water every day would constantly trigger feelings of stress and anxiety. Drinking a glass of red water would feel unnatural, even if the taste was the same. Restaurants serving water would have to put it in opaque cups, just so people could drink without being disgusted. Think about children growing up in a world where the oceans are red. They might never associate the beach with fun, but instead with something scary and dangerous. On the environmental side, the change would ripple through ecosystems. Animals rely on camouflage and color perception. Fish that evolved to blend into blue oceans would suddenly stand out in red water, making them easier prey. Birds that hunt in rivers would have a harder time spotting food. Coral reefs, which are beautiful partly because of the clear water around them, would look far less colorful against a red backdrop. Even plants that grow in or near water might evolve differently, since the red tint would affect how light passes through water and how photosynthesis happens. Tourism would also take a massive hit. Tropical islands, which attract millions of tourists every year for their crystal-clear blue seas, would suddenly become places with blood-red waters. Who would want to swim, snorkel, or scuba dive in what looks like a giant pool of blood? Countries that rely on beach tourism might lose billions of dollars. Cruise ships would no longer market sailing across the deep blue sea. Instead, they'd be crossing unsettling crimson waters. Even bottled water companies would struggle. Imagine buying a bottle of Evian or Dasani, and it's filled with thick-looking red water. They'd probably have to dye it clear artificially or use opaque packaging to keep customers from freaking out. But here's where things get interesting. Eventually, humans adapt. At first, people would be horrified, but over years and generations, red water would become normal. Just like we don't think twice about the green color of leaves or the brown color of soil, future generations might not find red oceans strange at all. In fact, it could even become beautiful in its own way. People might write songs and poems about the beauty of crimson waves at sunset. Red waterfalls might become tourist attractions. Fashion and design would adapt to complement the red aesthetic. There could also be unexpected positives. Since red is such a strong and noticeable color, water pollution might be easier to spot. If factories dumped chemicals into rivers, The discoloration would be visible more quickly against the red background. Artists, filmmakers, and photographers would have a whole new world of inspiration. Imagine a movie scene set on a red ocean. It would look surreal and unforgettable. In the end, if water had always been red, we probably wouldn't even question it. It would just be part of life. But because we're used to water being clear and oceans being blue, the sudden switch would feel like the planet itself was bleeding. It would shake human psychology, damage tourism, change ecosystems, and force industries to adapt. And yet humanity would eventually normalize it, just like we've learned to adapt to so many strange changes in history. So, what do you think? Would a world with red water be terrifying? Or could it eventually become beautiful? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more fascinating what-if explorations.